speaker is Mr. Chandan Gokhale. He will be discussing about the revenue model and the monetization. So it's pride for me to introduce Mr. Chandan Gokhale. Chandan Gokhale is a venture leader with the insurance practice of Cognizant. In his role, he is responsible for growing the digital transformation sub-practice and leading the Insurance Next Labs and R&D arm of insurance practice. He is a qualified UX design strategist and TOGAF certified systems architect with more than 15 years of consulting experience with some of the best technology and design firms in the industry. He has strong experience in leading design strategy and technology-led innovation, co-creation engagements. Chandan holds a MS Masters in Systems Engineering from Wichita State and in Industrial Design from Indian Institute of Technology. Between 2003 and 2009, Chandan was an adjunct faculty with Georgia Tech, HCI and Design Department and has a collaborative research relationship academic institution. So please welcome Mr. Chandan Gokhale with a huge round of applause. Mr. Chandan Gokhale. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. It was long. So thank you, Rohit. Thanks for the invitation. Thank you, Geetanjali, also for inviting. This is kind of promotion for me to have a white collar opportunity. In past, she is giving due respect to my formidable handyman skills. She has given me opportunities to erect sets for dramas. So it's good to be in front of people instead of behind. So I'm going to speak about revenue models. But before I get there, I want to kind of give some context. We all kind of know about what revenue models are. I want to speak it from my perspective. I'm going to kind of introduce myself to this network based on my background. And so in that sense, if you think of today's session, it's part of it is education, part of it is networking. And so my whole effort will be to introduce myself and my skill set as a source for you all, as a mentor, what I can do for this network. And so I'll talk about revenue models, but I'll talk in context of my background and a couple of positions that I wanted to have shared with you before I get to revenue models, if you all are okay with that. So again, I think it was a very insightful speech by Lakshmikantji before. We all have gone through these experiences, but I guess this gave me some vocabulary for that. You heard my background, my profile, but if I had to describe myself in one word, I would describe myself as a designer. Okay, I'm a born designer. I was very fortunate that I got a chance to go to one of the best design institutes in the world. I was trained by some of the best design educators in the world. And as a token of my appreciation for that good luck, like you heard, I did teach in Georgia Tech Design School for 6 years because if you ask me, I am a designer. I love being a designer, and in any job I do, that's what I do. I am a designer. So my effort will be to introduce to you all myself as a designer and share with you what I think is a key reason why entrepreneurs, startup leaders should know about design. And the second part will be again about my day job, but I want to take some time and talk about design, creativity, and in that sense, I did speak with Jim that I'm going to take a completely different viewpoint as a starting point. I think what he was saying to a large extent is true. I'll just position it differently. But you might have heard about this statement by Ronald Reagan. You guys have heard of Ronald Reagan? Before he became a successful politician, he was a successful actor, right? He was a Hollywood actor. And somebody asked him, how can a Hollywood actor be a politician, right? And his response was, I don't know how politicians can be successful without being good at it. Right? So my viewpoint is, if you ask me, Chandan, you are a designer, what have you got to do to be with an entrepreneur? I would say, I don't know any successful entrepreneur who's not a good designer or creative person, okay? And creativity in that sense is a bigger circle. Designer, some people may think is inside that. I tend to think that design is bigger than creativity. But to make sure that we are, semantically getting it all right, and I think that's where you might see what Jim was saying is absolutely true. It's just semantics may have been different. We need to understand what creativity is, and I'm okay. I hope you guys are okay if I talk about this, because I want to talk about revenue models in terms of creativity. Okay, this is not technical stuff. Revenue models are creative levers I've used in my entrepreneurial life, so I want to talk about creativity upfront. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first thing, I think creativity, and I'm proud to be a designer. If there were days when people used to say behind my back that, hey, Chandan's very creative. I miss those days because nowadays behind my back people say Chandan's starting to bald, right? But jokes apart, I take creativity seriously, but I think there's a tendency to think that creativity is about art. Okay, this person's very creative. He can draw, he can sketch, he can paint, he can write. Honestly, creativity is bigger than that. The definition of creativity that I was taught is unpredictable effectiveness. Okay, unpredictable effectiveness, and a large part of that has to do with intuition. Sometimes we intuitively come up with ideas that are unpredictable but effective. So to a large extent what Jim was doing with those chairs that he got made in Pakistan, I think were unpredictable effectiveness. He had seen that chair work somewhere else. He had that in mind. He superimposed the effectiveness of what that chair was doing somewhere else. The part that was unpredictable is how he got it to do in this new context. So essentially, if you think of creativity as unpredictable effectiveness, that is what an entrepreneur does day in, day out. You're all the time revising your understanding, responding, right? It has to be unpredictable so that your competition doesn't know. But when you do it, it has to be effective, because otherwise it's just a new idea. A lot of things what he was saying about, music is never really same, stories are never, they're absolutely right. People have been stealing. I realized that a creative person instinctively is good at cheating or borrowing ideas or stealing. But you can't do the same song again and have a claim to fame, right? You have to know how to repackage it. And again, that is something as an entrepreneur, you have to know. You have to know how to creatively package it. And that is where I think you all, if you are entrepreneurs, if you are startup leaders, you should consciously make efforts to connect with some people who are from design field. Okay? Now, going further beyond creativity, let's talk about what design means. Can someone take a crack at explaining what does design mean to you? What image comes to your mind when you think of design?
Planning for something to get a final result.
Okay. Planning for something to get final results. Any?
Drawing your ideas on imagination.
Drawing on your ideas and imagination. Okay.
Planning for better user experience.
Okay. You're right. I think it's creative use, it's creative, it's unpredictable, it's effectiveness. But there is an aspect to good design that has to do with beyond ideas, beyond intuition. It is about connecting to human values. Okay? We are all extremely emotional animals. we love to think that we make our decisions rationally, we make our choices rationally, we earn a lot of money, we spend it very wisely, we always can defend retroactively a lot of decisions we made, but 85 to 90% of our decisions are guided by emotions. Okay? And that is what designers help you to do. If you as an entrepreneur, you're trying to come to market with some product, if you just go rationally, thinking humans are absolutely rational decision makers, they have a branching structure in their mind, you take care of that, they will connect to your choices. That's not how it works. Customers, a lot of times, make emotional decisions, and the training that designers have, the training that well-trained creative people have is on that side. They know how to make that cognitive jump and respond to a tacit emotional need that a customer has, who will never tell you that that's what they want. Okay? Why did iPhone succeed where 6 other tablet phones had not worked? Because it addressed a lot of tacit needs. Okay? And that is the beauty. That is what designers can do. That is why creative people, if you ask me, are least bothered about all this buzz about AI and machine learning. They are not worried about it because they have incredible faith in their ability to make the jump to future and identify new tacit needs that we didn't know existed. Okay? And that is why in this era, when you are hearing about AI and worried about job losses, make friends with creative people. Go hang out with people who paint. Go hang out with people who do dramas. None of them will bring up topic of AI and losing jobs. None of them will. Okay? Actually, I still remember when I was young, I heard a story by, it was an interview by Raj Kapoor. You all know Raj Kapoor? Right? Raj Kapoor in his interview said that I feel bad about those tribes. There are some tribal people that used to come to Raj Kapoor's grandmother's village and tell the stories which Raj Kapoor heard from his grandmom, and then he made movies on those. Okay? He said, I feel bad about those people because in their generation, there was no cinema. These people had to go from town to town or village to village, perform every day, make a little bit of money. Raj Kapoor said, here I am, I can go to studio, I can shoot a movie once, and that movie will make money for generations to come. I don't have to go from town to town, I don't have to wait for them to pay me money. What had happened in between is the movie industry had come into picture. There was no movie industry before that, right? So, point is, we shouldn't worry about AI. AI will take away jobs that should be going away. It will free us up to think creatively. It will free up us to think of new revenue models or different business levels, to create new knowledge, right? There was a time where there was no movie industry. Instead of AI coming in and artists going out of work, artists became richer, right? Cricket players today are richer than past, right? People who can create new things, new ideas are richer today. So AI will take away jobs that anyway should go away, but new industries will evolve because human needs are unfathomable. There are tacit needs that we have that we don't know because nobody is out there to take care of them, right? And that's where I think when we talk about revenue models in a little bit, remember that creativity, if you look at it in that terms, it's not just about stealing idea, but creativity as a way to respond to tacit needs, tapping into that, then there is no limit to value you can create. Okay? So with that, I'll move on to second topic, which is I am an entrepreneur, but I am a different kind of entrepreneur by choice. I am an intrapreneur. By choice, I have decided to not quit my day job. I have decided to become an entrepreneur inside a large company. I run a team called Accelerator within Cognizant, where the model is instead of you quitting and taking your idea out and start finding funding and doing all that, I went to my management and said, look, if you had to buy a company like this, it will cost you $3 billion. Which they said, yes, that's true. I said, then you'll buy that company, half the people will leave. What's the value internally? He said, yes, it's half, right? So what I'm trying to tell is that whole model for startups where you quit, you bootstrap, that's definitely one model. Some people should definitely go that way. But there is an alternative model if you want to. Increasingly, a lot of companies are realizing that compared to acquiring from outside, funding people who have entrepreneurial spirit inside is also a very sound, very profitable model. And if you are working in a company where that structure exists, please do tap into that. If it doesn't exist, that's where I can be a resource to you. I can help you guys figure out how to talk to your management, to convince them that instead of you leaving and taking that idea outside, it's better for them. You stay there and you grow that, right? So those are the two backgrounds that I would say I bring to the network. And again, I'll talk about my presentation, but this is the mindset that has shaped my thinking. And as a creative person, as somebody who is trained to think creatively, what I have realized is I rely on external things to help me guide in ideas, right? When we typically brainstorm, people just think of ideas randomly. What designers do is they are trained to come up with these ideas on themselves. Instead of falling in love with first or second idea, they are trained to come up with 10 different ideas, right? So one person can brainstorm and come up with 10 ideas. And I look at revenue model as a brainstorming tool for myself. I have 5 different, what they call line of businesses reporting to me. I have about $60 million worth of business that indirectly flows through my office. I use these things. I use these things systematically to do money, to make money, because I'm part of Cognizant. Before that, I was part of Infosys. Mahesh and I used to work together. A lot of us probably are some way or the other associated with Indian IT or firms of that kind, where the model historically has been services. We sell man hours, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a very scalable big business. But my mandate was to look at other ways of doing it, and this is what I have used for creative ideation on how to proceed, how to find out different business model without leaving Indian IT structure. Okay. Any questions before I think that I'll get into the slides now, but the whole idea was to give you some background on who I am, what I can be of help to you. Sure.
So, term that you are using here, revenue model, is it revenue model for yourself as an individual? Do something creatively or
I would say it's more a monetization mechanism. What is it that people want to pay for, right? So again, I'm using a revenue model in terms of what is it that people are willing to pay for, right? You may think you have a great product, but people sometimes don't want to pay for it. Look at artists, look at musicians particularly. People appreciate their music, but they don't want to pay for it. So if you go further, why think of a revenue model upfront? Why think of it further upfront? Because I think revenue model tends to be looked at way late in the game. You spend a lot of money as a startup leader. If you ask people, they are worried about technology, platform, customers, all kinds of other things. But they don't realize that at some point somebody has to pay for it. And if you can look at that component also competitively, can you compete in the market on the revenue model even if you have a extremely commoditized product, right? Revenue model as a competitive leverage is something that's completely ignored. My suggestion is let's start looking at it upfront because a lot of times that's missed out. So again, I will go through 10 different models. Idea is to look at these as ideation technique. Okay. Going further, I learned this based on my own failure. Okay, about 10 years ago, I filed for a patent for a pizza box, a circular pizza box. I actually have that patent now. Okay, but I made $0 selling this. Why? Because my revenue model was completely off. I tried to compete with pizza box manufacturers on a price to price basis. It didn't work out. I didn't have the scale. I didn't have the product. But I had a great product. Everybody loved it. He said circular pizza needs circular boxes. I knew that because I've done a lot of pizza delivery as a student. This box doesn't fold pizza. This doesn't stack. It stacks well. It's eco-friendly. Everything went for it. But revenue model was wrong, and I failed as an entrepreneur. So, having learned from that, this is another tool I use. Revenue model is an important piece of this. And think of this as a sketchboard. Leveraging revenue model as central. What all other pieces need to be changed so you can essentially meet the customer on their terms. That's what revenue models are about. Typically what happens is, till about 20 years ago, 90% of commerce in the world happened on this thing, right? Selling a physical good. This is my product. You take it, you give me the money, we are done. You go home, you keep the IP, right? It's a one-time transaction, it's done. That is the most simple, fundamentally easy to understand thing, right? But a lot of times, it left a lot of value that wasn't getting captured. So that's where people started experimenting with, is there something else that we can do, correct? So this whole idea of renting started, right? If you go to Home Depot, you can rent a truck, right? That way you get to use something, but you don't end up owning something, right? Which was taken to an extremely useful end by folks at GE Aviation. I don't know how many of you know this, but GE Aviation nowadays sells extremely complicated turbo airline jet engines on an hourly basis where they are responsible for maintenance and keeping it going, which aligns with how airline really cares about the engine. Otherwise they had to spend millions, acquire planes, acquire engines, and spend on this upfront. Now GE Aviation sends Delta or other airlines a monthly bill for number of hours this engine was in flight. Correct? It makes a ton of sense because Delta's expenses are aligned with that. They can see how much I'm earning, how much I'm spending out. It's easy for them to commit to these things. And who's taking the risk? GE Aviation is taking the risk. Right? This is how they are actually competing and winning against Pratt & Whitney. Okay? So renting these things by hour, by distance, this is look at this as a competitive tool. Can I change my revenue model to something like this? Then there are things like subscription. Instead of trying to pick something and selling it, can you convert what you have into a subscription or usage fee?